And we're live.
Hey everybody, I'm Zoe FV, and it's time to talk about some
Changes and face the strain. Changes. Don't tell them to grow up out of it. Changes and face the strain.
Okay, so I have with me today some of my friends on the internet. You may know them as the UFDA crew. I know them as a bunch of misfits that I call my friends and family on the internet.
Aww.
Aww.
So if you're with us right now, that means you're watching a video that hasn't been out in like a month. Like, I have not put out anything in over a month, and I feel weird because a lot has happened within that month of time, and it's kind of something I need to talk about, because if I don't talk about it, I feel like my head's gonna explode. So to do that, I brought with me Old Gravy Leg, Enoch, Mike of War, and Wombat.
I just kind of showed up. I wasn't invited.
You know, he was. I don't even think anybody was invited. Like, it literally just kind of fucking happened. So, that was my one F-bomb of the show, everybody. PG-13.
Only get one.
We just talked about this.
Just talked about this, and I was the one that did it.
It's cool though because
yeah,
it was you.
Pending that, I guess starting off, kind of a big thing, I lost my primary sponsor, Airviews. They did some big changes in the company, and myself, along with a bunch of other pilots, basically lost our cash sponsorships. And it was pretty rough because that cash sponsorship basically allowed me to do a lot more in this industry than I had been able to do previous to it. But it was kind of something that was dwindling down because for a while Airviews was covering travel, and then they stopped covering travel, and then they essentially halved everything they were paying the pilots, so my pay went down 50%. And then they finally are like, hey, yeah, we're just cutting all the pilots. So, yeah, that was really difficult. And essentially that happened right before I was going to go to MultiGP I, which I was really looking forward to because they had the FAI race. And for those that don't know the FAI, they're holding the world's largest drone race happening next month in Shenzhen. And it's going to have probably the world, like the most amount of female pilots ever at a drone race. And they're racing on a track that costs $2 million to produce. And they're racing for like $1 million in prize money. Like, this race is something a lot of people hadn't heard about or, you know, known about. And it's something I wanted to qualify for, which I had to do at MultiGP I. Plus, there was the X-Class race happening at MultiGP I, and Ultimate Class, which was X-Class versus Mini Quads versus Wings and all the other good stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff happening at that event, and literally 5 days before it happened, Airviews is like, nope, we're done. So I scrambled, and thankfully Armiton stepped up to the game. They're like, hey Zoe, you are an awesome pilot. We want to support you, and we want to help send you to IO. So they helped foot the bill to get me to IO, which was amazing. And then Dysonian helped for the hotel room, so I had some place to stay, because originally I was going to be sleeping out in Lunchbox's tent next to his motorhome. And that was going to be fun, but I kind of wanted sort of warm to stay because I was dealing with health issues at the time. This is really where it gets complicated. Like, I've had a really long month.
A lot of changes.
A lot of changes.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping the music was going to cut in there. But, so yeah, like, I was just dealing with a lot. And as what you probably saw in my previous video, I kind of outlined some of my health issues. And after IO, this is kind of the big thing, is I put off getting a nerve block to go to IO, because the earliest they had available was happening the 8th, which was happening exactly over IO. So I had to like say, okay, do you either get a nerve block to not be in as much pain anymore, or do I go to IO and go race for the potential chance, maintain my title and status in X class, and try out for the ultimate race. So, like, I had to deal with that, plus figuring out how to get to IO after my sponsorship getting pulled out from under me. So that was like a whole, like, just, I could not believe that I got together in time to go. IO is a pretty cool event. I had never been, so it was kind of neat to see a lot of the pilots that I've been watching online for a while, and, you know, rub shoulders with people that I've generally only rubbed shoulders at with events like IO and other international events, you know. And so that was really cool. They partied kind of hard on Saturday night, and a lot of the people that were running the FAI race on Sunday weren't with it so much. Like, they basically made up the rules on the spot, and they threw out the rule set they had in their pilot handbook because it was too much for them to adhere to at the point in time, which bummed me out because I was the first person that showed up that morning to race. And yeah, but cool enough though, someone I admire, Jessica Dronehart, she ended up winning and beating my butt, thankfully, because and this is the point of contention, like, they used the same course they ran for Worlds. So the entire time I wasn't competing on the world track, I was supposed to be competing on the FAI course and the X class course and the ultimate course. Well, I did well in ultimate class. I took 4th place, which was awesome. And I had the second fastest lap, which was fun. Did okay in that. Ended up basically blowing up my machine in the X class race on the main qualifier round. I had to get one of the ESCs replaced. I got the ESC swapped out and got DQ'd initially from the race. So I took like 13th, which was a really big letdown. That's like the worst I've done all season. Which I largely attend to the point that I raced with a team and other people, and I didn't have my team with me. So I felt kind of like out of place. But I still maintained my point lead in the season, the points, and that kind of goes into what happened at the West Coast Throwdown, which is the next event. So I've been to 3 different events this past month, and it's been pretty intense. Before the West Coast Throwdown, essentially 6 hours before I have to get in a van to travel out to it, I got the nerve block, which was great, but then I had to be shoved into a van to, you know, have that done.
Getting shoved into a van is never a good time.
It's not. It's really not. Like, it was, especially for like 9 hours after you've had your back stabbed multiple times. Yeah. But I got through it. And so basically after I showed up to the Throwdown, which for those that don't know, you need to go check out the westcoastthrowdown.com. And if you're on the West Coast, or hell, if you want to travel and actually go to a really chill event, West Coast Throwdown is probably where it's at. We had our second biggest X class race there, which was another X class race, which is another one out of state. So I had 2 out of state X class races like back to back. But this time I got to bring my entire team with me, and I fielded like 3 pilots. So even though I took 6 because I ended up blowing up a machine instantly and doing the thing I seem to have been doing lately, which is like going full throttle out of the gate, just blowing stuff up, and then taking my backup rig and placing decently. So I took 6th place, but during that time I had the second fastest lap of the day. And I had this amazing back and forth run with the Flying Ryan, and it was, and everybody says it was the best heat of the day, because, and I'll be posting that soon. That's probably gonna be some of the footage that I post before everything else, just because it was so dramatic. But yeah, so that event went well, and then I held the first ever X-Class freestyle event. that had 14 people enter with 14 different X-Class rigs. That was really cool. And then I had then I helped MC the freestyle event for the West Coast Throwdown, which had 18 people in it. So altogether, I ran like 34 pilots through a freestyle competition with different categories. And that went really well. Like the pilots had fun. The people that won the mini quad competition got $250. The person that won the X-Class freestyle comp also got some cash. So it was really fun to actually hold the freestyle competition again. Earlier, and I've been jumping way ahead. Earlier this month, I won a bigger trophy that I'm really excited to show off. It's the trophy for the death race from the FPV Jamboree. I also hosted a freestyle competition at this event, and then they had the death race the following day, which I entered instead of like helping out in. And I ended up winning this and this awesome little setup from Twin Quad Frames, Corey and his awesome company. So I won that there, which is pretty cool. And then I ended up winning an award at the West Coast Throwdown for essentially helping run the event for the freestyle. It was basically like a spirit award kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so besides me saying and all the different events and trying to get it all out there so I can kind of talk about other stuff. Yes. There we go. Yeah, getting back to the actual changes, because I just talked about what happened, not actually what was changing. So with Airviz dropping me, sponsorships have been kind of weird. I've brought on a couple new sponsors, and yeah, I brought on China Hobby Line, for those that don't know. I'm currently running their 5S 120C mini star packs, the 1500 mAh. Love these things. If you want to win one of these, leave a comment down below. I'll be picking out a winner after the show. And I brought on Foxeer. And this is also kind of what I'm running on some of my rigs, the Foxeer Predator Micro. I've also tested out the Falcor and a few other rigs. And I love their cameras so far. And if you want to win one of these, again, link or comment down below.
Foxeer makes pretty good stuff, not gonna lie. It's pretty good.
I agree.
I like it. I like it. I mean, this thing is, like, I tried out the China Line batteries before I signed on with them. Same thing, I tried out the Foxeer cameras before signing on with them. I wanted to see if I actually liked the product before I was getting in bed with them. And on that note, I'm getting in bed with Hype Train. So I am now officially a sponsored pilot, which is pretty cool. That's basically Rotor Riot's brand motors. And I'm in early talks right now to get something big made for X-Class. And I've realized with like an X-Class like Hype Train motor, you could put the entire Hype Train logo on it in full detail. And you can actually put, and this is kind of what I want to call them, or the choo-choos, because they'd be so big and you could literally put a photo of a train going around the entire motor. But that's just a concept that I have in my head. And but yeah, initially talking out with them, we've got some initial specs on the board. Hopefully, if all things go well, I'll have some tester motors in my hands at some point in time. And yeah, initially after talking to Chad Capper, I'm like, I want to make some mini quad 3D motors. And then he's like, hey, how about some X-Class motors? I'm like, okay, I wanted to start small, but if you want to go to the big boys, let's go right to the big ones. I mean, I could definitely use some X-Class motors. I know a lot of people would be pretty hyped to see a high-quality, hype-trained X-Class motor come to market.
And X-Class is like rising rapidly in popularity.
This is the thing that threw me off. So at the West Coast Throwdown, last year we had like 6 people enter the race. This year we had 15. And the same thing with the freestyle competition. I was expecting like 7 people to compete. The fact that 14 people showed up for it with giant drones to compete in a freestyle competition out in the middle of Oregon, that just blew my mind. And the fact that everyone had a good time, they enjoyed it, they liked the format, the winners felt like they actually won, the losers understood why they lost. Like, nobody was like, oh god, this was bullshit. Which is something that happens at a lot of events, and it's something that I really kind of spent a lot of time trying to make sure didn't happen at one that I was running. So with the freestyle competitions at the Throwdown, that marks like the 7th freestyle event and competition I've held. And I'm hoping to make the next one at Rotorite Rampage. So if you're one of the pilots that have been to one of the competitions I've held, and if you thought it was a lot of fun, you definitely want to go to the Rampage, because we're going to do it up a little bit there, I think. I'm going to talk to Drew and find out what kind of resources we can give it, because if I can get a stage/MC system and some music for the pilots in a nice little area, and if we can do pre-qualifying, like if you can send in a video and be chosen for the competition, then we can do something a little bit cool. Otherwise, I'm worried that we'll have 300 pilots show up and 100 pilots want to do a freestyle competition, and I have to go through 100 fucking runs, which would be nearly impossible. So, like, logistically, I'm figuring it out right now. And that's why I have to talk to Drew to see logistically what we need to plan for and what we can plan for. But, yeah, I am hoping to bring freestyle competitions back from the dead this year.
And that's cool, because, like, when we first started talking about X-Class stuff, my first question for you was, who is dove a building with an X-Class rig? And you're like, damn it, I have to get you an X-Class rig now. So, but now it's blowing up. Like, it's getting so prominent so fast. Like, DNA, he's just ripping freestyle. Like, I don't know if he races or not. Wombat, does he race X-Class, or does he just rip?
I don't know. I just know that he's been ripping that the BQE XXX frame.
Yeah.
I think he does race. I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
I don't really have my ear to the ground to like with X-Class as much as I should.
Boz
I can't afford
might
it.
be in one of the auxiliary races and one of the other chapters, but he hasn't been racing in the main races. And the thing is, like, he's a really great pilot, and it's one of those things where he does a lot, and I would really like to see him out on the course racing with us, because he's got the rig, he's got the gumption, and yeah, it's weird. Like the X-Class, like the actual races, for example, Wu-Tang, the guy that I helped, I gave the actual rig to him to fly. This is part of my whole Team Dysonian test. I give a rig to him to fly. They fly it in the race. If they don't crash the rig, I invite them onto the team. It's really simple.
I'm immediately off the team.
Well, well, so far, everyone that I've given the rig to hasn't crashed the rig besides Angela. And she's still invited on the team. So Wu-Tang essentially took that rig and he ended up winning the X-Class race and beating me on the same course with the same machine that I had, essentially, which kind of like, yay. Well, I'm super like excited because he's a good friend of mine, and since he's won the X-Class race, his social media has just blown up, and he's had different companies contacting him about, hey, do you want to try these parts? Do you want to try this out? Like, you know, do you need propellers? Do you need, like, what do you need? Like, we want to work with you. And 6 months ago to a year ago, I don't think that would have happened. But now that X Class is kind of becoming a premier thing, like it's really neat to see like Cobra Motors essentially signing on board with him, almost because he's just doing it well. He's in X Class now, and he's won a race, so he's kind of proven himself under the gun. And and we're sorry, go ahead.
Saying X Class has proven to be a lot more like fun to watch as far as races go. Because for me, like watching a multi-GP drone race, if you're trying to watch a video of it online, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to assume that it looks really cool and they're going really fast because I cannot see them. Whereas with the X Class, it's more a spectator thing. You can actually watch third person and like watch somebody take the pass, take the lead, and tell the quads apart in the air.
So I was able to announce, and I did announcing for the X Class race. I was able to announce it from over 800 feet away. Like, we had the main stage, and then the pilot area was about 200 feet away from there. And then the actual rigs were flying out to about 300 feet from that point. So, like, I could see the rigs and see what they were doing through the entire course, through a canopy of trees and hundreds of feet away, which I would never have been able to do with the mini quad setup, which kind of proves the point of X Class. The biggest thing I worry about now, especially with the DR1 cloning X Class, is we start seeing. Essentially, we start seeing them take it down the wrong path. Like, they're essentially flying these giant rigs, from what I've heard, over large distances. Perspective-wise, it's not that much of a difference from a mini quad. I mean, the only time we're really going to see that machine is when they're really close up and bunched up in racing, which over a long distance of a course is generally not going to be that often. So these organizations essentially, and there's merit to them cloning us. Like, there's a whole, I don't know how deeply I should get into it in the hopes that they still want to work with X Class, but like, they essentially took X Class's top pilot, they took all the equipment that I worked on for the last year and a half, and they used it for their pro whatever, and they called it their own when me and a lot of other people worked on it. And we actually, even to the point of having emails and going back 2+ years ago with DR1 about giant drone racing. Like, I have personal emails to the organization talking about it back before they had their first race. And then X Class, they have their own emails and their own back and forth with DR1 on giant drone racing going back 8+ months ago. So they essentially cut us all out and stole, essentially, and cloned our rigs and our whole concept, and are running without us. So that's awesome. I feel like I'm getting screwed by DR1 yet again. All these years later, they're coming back to give me one more little, hey, Zoe, you had a great idea. We're going to take that from you, and you get nothing.
Ugh, that's rough. I mean, a lot of the community lately, from what I've been hearing in other facets or whatever, is getting a little more cutthroat, getting a little more down to it. Is that?
Well, I'm generally, I'm trying to be like positive about it, because I'm really excited by the fact they're putting giant drones on TV and essentially putting the products I helped develop on TV. Like, that's still a claim to fame for me. But I really wanted to be a part of it and really help kind of guide it forward and essentially get some credit for X Class, because X Class, we've been doing it since 2016. Like, giant drone racing happened because of everything of the people in that organization have done. I mean, there's been other groups that have been trying to do giant drone racing, but up until it was essentially me getting the spec made for the hardware and them as a group helping coalesce as an organization to push it for the pilots, it didn't exist. We had Titan Class, which did their own thing and kind of buttled. We had Freedom Class, which still hasn't done too much. We've had a Super Class, which is basically fizzled out. Did
Freedom Class ever make it through a gate?
I have not seen them do any gates yet.
Is that
And if I'm wrong, please someone send me a video of it, and I'll post a promotion for Freedom Class on my channel. Because I was a big supporter of Freedom Class. It's not as a slight to them. It's to like I was one of their biggest supporters early on because I wanted to fly giant drones. And because they didn't make it available and because I couldn't actually do it, I decided to do it on my own and to make it a reality in a way that other people could do it. Like Freedom Class's whole thing is like they're going to make the drone and you give them money and then they give the pilots the drones who put advertisement on it and then they fly them. X-Class has been more like, hey, we're going to create the rules, the structure, the format for the races, the safety around them. And then you bring the rig, it meets the basic spec, you fly it, and it runs. And because of that, and only because of that, we've had the development of hardware on giant drone racing over the last 2 years. Because we've had an open spec, because we've allowed people to bring what they brung, we've actually had people working on new stuff and have brought the actual development forward, and in doing so have made the machines faster and to the point of where everyone else was promising a couple years ago. But they never had the actual ability to do it. So that's why I love racing, is it pushes technology forward. Like you can, in any racing format basically pushes the technology forward. And that's one of the beautiful things with X-Class, is to actually make giant drone racing happen to that level, you have to push it forward consistently. Like someone wants to go faster than the next guy, and the next guy wants to go faster than the next guy. And because of that, that makes one dude start shaving off grams of weight from the bell housing of his motor. You know, it makes the dude start shaving off props and making custom props. I mean,
makes the other dude start shaving his face.
Yeah, I mean, you know, facial hair is definitely not something you want in X-Class. It's a baby face only zone. That was a joke, but
look at that.
I'm really excited about X-Class.
Look at this thing right here, though.
And watching it grow.
Awesome.
It just like another.
and that's filmed with the camera on the sideline. Like
Right.
if you actually had a pro level camera that was chasing it from the sideline, it would look even cooler.
Right.
Not to say they're not using a pro level camera, it's just not meant to do what they were doing with it.
Is there a long range race class?
So I don't want to talk about that because I have ideas on how it can be done and done in a safe way, and because X-Class is catching fire, I worry. Well, I guess in some ways DR1's kind of doing that because all their courses are long range. But
I think what you were talking about was having actual AP quads chasing the bigger quads, right?
no, I'm talking about, well, two things. One, a camera with an actual lens that has a zoom.
Okay.
Two, there's a technology called solo shot, where if the machine is going in a straight line, you can actually track the machine's movement as it goes through the air. But it's only really good up to 70 miles an hour. So once the machines start getting a little bit faster, it'll be completely useless. It's like right now we get like a few seconds of good footage for every few seconds of bad footage we get.
How fast do you think we'll be able to get X-Class?
Next year we'll hit 200 miles an hour. I mean, that's the second one, so we're definitely in the R rating now.
I didn't want to call you out for the other ones.
I didn't hear it.
So with like X-Class, the 12 cell is where the next like real end is gonna be. A lot of people are gonna have a hard, like the average pilot is gonna have a hard time going to 12 cell, so a lot of them will still run 6 cell for a while. But as far as the power systems and what's coming out, the 12 cell compatible stuff that should be shipping from a couple different sources should make it available for us to hit speeds that we can only dream of right now. And 200 miles an hour, there's a whole actual number behind it. And that's because in testing the propeller for the master air screw 13 by 12 by 3, and this is like, I'm giving away information I probably shouldn't because it's kind of like a team trade secret.
Then
so
don't
if you're
do
listening,
it. Nah.
you're gonna really want to listen.
Hold on.
You have other changes that you have to talk about as well, so you don't necessarily have to give away trade secrets.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah. Enoch, how many changes do we have? Do we have any changes?
There's a couple. There's a couple.
Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes. Don't tell them to blow up out of it. Changes.
Yeah, I totally forgot.
I just didn't want you to regret this tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no. Well, because I've already actually said it openly like once or twice, so it's not totally whatever. But yeah, X-Class development. So one of the biggest things I'm looking for more people to develop out hardware with, like 12 SESCs, essentially just giant ESCs. Like if you're working on giant power systems, like talk to me because yeah. I wanna do some cool stuff, and I could definitely use some more contacts in that. But yeah, so the biggest thing that have been changes happening is me essentially pounding the sponsor game, as I call it. I've been contacting a lot of sponsors, being like, hey, I need this for this, I need to do this for this, like what you got? And generally they just have dogs getting lifted off on Phantoms in the background.
Well, that's why Phantoms are evil. Don't buy Phantoms; they're evil. They take away your dogs.
I just saw what was being broadcasted, and that's gold.
Oh my goodness.
Like that's actually really well done.
So one thing I've always wanted to ask you is when you take somebody out and you like with the Rotor Riot video, when you let everybody rip your X-Classic quad cam. Well, not everybody, but a good amount of people. Enoch was actually playing it earlier. What do you get, like, what's like the main first comment or the main first question that you get after somebody has already flown one for the first time? And why is it an expletive?
Generally their first time flying it, they're like, that was effing amazing. And it's generally because you feel that machine as it like takes off and flies around. Like a mini quad, you hear it, but an X-Class machine, you feel it, and it's a little bit different. And when you take the goggles off, especially after a really good race where you're going 100+ miles an hour head to head against somebody, there's a level of adrenaline that doesn't really get up there with anything else besides actual racing with actual cars and actual motorcycles. Besides, if I crash, I'm not going to die or get hurt. My stuff just catches fire and it looks cool. Which my stuff caught fire at the last race. That was fun. I was running a new build for the first time, and I had not had a chance to properly work on it because I had spent the last 12 hours of the event working on other pilots' machines, helping them out, because I was more focused on making the event happen than my own stuff. So essentially, I ended up like getting the machine working and flying, and didn't actually have a chance to properly test it before the event. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. And as soon as I got it up past like 50% throttle, one of the ESCs just popped, and it tumbled to the ground and started a small brush fire, but which was promptly put out before it even grew into a small flame. But essentially, that's where the ESC. Every fire I've had has been from an ESC that I will not name. and I need some new ESCs from new manufacturers, so I stopped catching stuff on fire. It's not a good image for my brand.
Is there
Although
like
it's kind of cool.
is there new stuff like on the horizon as far as electronics? Because I see it asked all the time. People want to get in entry level and they want to run like like the metal ESCs and
So like B-Rotor is coming out with their V2 ESC. Underground I think is working on something. FR Sky has the 80 amp ESC.
Yo, would there possibly be room in this industry for a reverse sponsor? In the sense of they pay you whenever something lights on fire, because when things light on fire, that's cool.
Oh, like a monster truck rally.
Yes.
Well,
So,
no,
like,
it's also when stuff lights on fire, they have to spend more money to replace all the shit they just broke, so they make more money.
And it doesn't really sell the product. Its products are going to.
What if we could get X-Class just big enough so you could carry just little bits that you can just light on fire and drop for effect?
Like wrestling when they cut themselves in the corner.
Kind of like that.
Maybe you can already do that.
Oh.
like
Maybe there's nothing in the rules that says you can't have an oil slick on your rig.
Oh.
it's
So,
like I'm
gotta
not
be
using an oil slick.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
the Sega game Rock and Roll Racing.
Shotgun turtle shell. Yeah. Shotgun.
There's nothing in the rules that states your machine can take off and then a separate machine separates and you can use that as a homing missile to take out a rig.
That would be really dope.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say you could probably couldn't get away with it. I mean, someone would definitely be pissed off if you did that, but there's nothing in the rules that states you can't do that.
But how many people would enjoy it?
What if you
What?
just shot a silly string behind you? A silly string.
That's okay, I think.
Yes.
Remember that time I spotted you with the jerk?
Dude, like your face. I still need to put your face on a machine.
Oh no.
Was that the deal? Was that the deal though? Because I want to see his face on a machine.
Well, it was for like $200 worth of jerky, and that was like
Not $100 for the jerk.
no, it was delicious 2 handfuls though. Don't get me wrong.
I need to
Tasted
make
like
that
$200.
first.
But I think the actual real sponsorship is gonna be dragging flags behind the rigs, because you can actually drag a full flag behind them. It looks kind of cool.
Throughout the whole race.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's pretty cool.
Mm.
I think it'd be cool to have like a relay race with an X class and a mini quad, and that way when the X class is about to eat shit, or if you get to like when the batteries go down to like way below where they should be, which I assume they do, then it's like, okay, you've had X amount of time and you just deploy the mini quad and they go through the infield of a course,
There's
and
nothing
it's a
that
different
says
pilot.
you can't do that. So if you can take off at 800 millimeters, you don't have to land at 800 millimeters.
It's like a consumable. It goes from like, what is it, 800 to 1200 millimeters is X class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you
and
take
then you go
off-
down to 210.
You take off, squibs, blow your arms off, and then you take off again from the air. Now you have a 5-inch.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely raise some eyebrows, and they'd probably change the rules immediately after you did it. But there's nothing in the rules that state that you have to land 800 millimeters. Like, they tech inspect the machines before you race at 800, and that's what it is. So
Why UFDA?
How good can an X-Class withstand a turtle shell hitting it?
not well at all.
Would it look good to a crowd?
It would look good to a crowd. It would definitely look good. And you joke about a turtle shell, but there is a guy that's literally building a giant hovering turtle shell.
I have a turtle shell. We could just use that.
But does it hover?
We can make it hover.
Well, his already hovers.
Mike.
Anyways, the words and the things and the stuff, because I want to kind of wrap it up and not go on for evers and evers. As much as I kind of want to. Content. So I'll be releasing more content here soon on the channel. I don't know exactly when or what. I have a bunch of Quad Basher stuff to edit. I have 3 different freestyle competitions with B-roll plus A-roll and DVR from all of them that I could edit together into something that is watchable. I'm not 100% sure if I can get that done or not within like a feasible time. So I am debating on what to do and what to film. I'm most likely gonna say screws it and do a 3D master edit. I have a lot of 3D footage I haven't released over the last few months that I kind of want to slam into a really cool video. So I might end up just doing that.
Oh yeah.
It's been too long since I've released a 3D edit. And that's kind of my roots. I love 3D and I'll continue to do that no matter what. Yeah, so look out for that. And then if you want to support me, head over to patreon.com /SloeyFTV. I'm on there. I'll be promoting that a lot more, not like heavily like you have to be here, but like, you know, if you're on my Patreon, I'll be having Patreon only giveaways, like this one for a frame. That's essentially the one that I started 3D on, and one of the original Bullet Drones Black Widows. So this was the actual frame that I had on Rotor Riot when Tommy and all of them flew my quad in 3D, right before I finished off my Excalibur setup. So if you want to win that, go over to patreon.com /ZoeFTV. Yeah. And if you want to buy some stuff, you're already in the mood to buy it. I'm trying out something new. Amazon approached me on opening up an Amazon influencer store. So if you want to buy some stuff with Amazon Prime, like some Hype Train motors, you know, a God remixed frame, a Tyrannus, some goggles. Heck, the new Mavic 2 is on there too. You can go over to amazon.com /shop /ZoeFTV. And that will have all the gear, at least most of the gear that I've flown with to recommend to people. And when you shop or do anything from that store and link, that gives me a kickback of like 8%. And if you buy stuff that's not from my store, well, also from that link, you will also be kicking back to me. So it's just another way for people to help support what I do, because I'm not making money from this, and definitely cash negative, especially after losing that primary sponsor. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and check out my latest videos up on Rotor Riot. Check out the UFDA crew channel. That's where all these little misfits are, you know, on, and all what they do. Go watch All Gravy League. Go watch Wombat. Go watch Enoch. Go watch Michael Ward. Those guys are cool. And I know it's probably the first time I've had them on my channel. Hopefully it's not last. And
I'm proud of him for being so good right now.
I know, seriously, like if you have any idea what kind of hijinks these guys get into, they're on their best behavior right now, which is kind of astounding. I've never seen them so gentle and calm and
sober.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go.
I hit the wrong button. I was trying to.
So Gravy, play us out.
I could play us out. Here, let me.
Changes.
Wanna go?
Alert.
Wait.
Oh.
Wait. Do we?
Changes.
Wait.
Don't tell them to grow up.
Something's happening. There's an interruption. There's an interruption, folks. Something just happened. We've been hacked. We've been hacked, folks.
We've been no hacked.
We've been no hacked.
for it, wait 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 for it.
Oh my god.
Yeah! Oh!
All right. Don't keep going. They have to go check it out on the UFDA Crew YouTube. Zoe, I love that you're bright red right now.
I can't even. I can't.
Hold on.
We broke Chad Boak.
Yeah, you broke me.
Mike, you're muted.
We broke Zoe.
I like ran on my face, like I can't, like.
Hey, it's awesome to see you like this stoked and back putting out content and stuff.
Yeah.
I've missed it. Everybody on your channel has missed it. So
I'm pretty stoked. Like I'm still uncertain about a lot of things, but I'm pretty like things are at least moving in a good direction. So that's pretty cool.
No matter what, we're all gonna have fun together.
yes.
Oh, else yeah.
We
Even
get it.
if I have to shove all my shit in the back of a van and live like Mr. Steele for a few years, I'm down.
You'd find some good spots.
You should do a
Yeah,
station
probably a
wagon.
lot more than I have right now.
What are you talking about? I'm flying my backyard.
I just noticed that Wombat has some
changes
pizza.
will happen in a healthy manner, and things will get better. I think it's a cleanse. It's a cleanse.
Yeah. If anyone wants to hire me and actually give me a real job, hit me up.
I'm working on it.
And on that note,
Changes. Changes. Don't tell them to grow up out of it. Changes.
comment down below for one of these Foxier cameras. Line 5S battery.
Excellent.
Get this freedom on my Patreon. And we're out of here.
Later, guys.